I know Urvashi, I know Kishore, both of them are lateral hires, so I think that's one shift. Would you like to talk about what prompted you both to actually, give up whatever you were doing and then jump ship and join the government and try and do, or take a different trajectory into work?
So, see, I have actually, when I joined, my first job I joined in 2005. That's when I passed out from IIM Lucknow, and I was working with PricewaterhouseCoopers in their infrastructure advisory team. So that sort of started my journey in the consulting space. Now, infrastructure is such a unique sector that government is the biggest stakeholder in this space. Now, most of the projects are driven, conceptualized by the government, be it union government, state government, local. So that sort of started my interaction with the government, but I was working as a consultant. So I worked for various clients. Some of them could be government, but some could be private entities also, who were interested in developing projects. But in any case, the interaction with the government started. So I worked a lot, analyzed what's happening right, what's happening wrong, what should be done in this space for years. When this government came in 2014, they started the broader thinking was that, look, let's recruit people who are experts in certain fields, and they bring that specific technical expertise that is lacking in the government. Because if you see the broader structure of the bureaucracy, most of the policy makers and the top decision makers come from that administrative, generalist perspective. So this gap of getting some specific technical expertise was there, and that's when some of us, including Urvashi, also sort of. So this opening came and we responded. I have been working for the government indirectly. Now this was an opportunity where I could be working directly with the government as part of the broader government machinery. So I did not have to give up anything. This was always an area where I was really passionate about.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that I lost out was money, but that doesn't matter much because the kind of opportunity that one gets in this space is tremendous. I was mentioning I was an infrastructure person all throughout, and I joined as an infrastructure person. One of the first things that I worked on was whether there should be a separate railway budget or not. And me and Dr. Bibek Debra, we wrote a paper recommending that we do not need a separate railway budget, and the government should think of having one union budget, one nation, one budget kind of a concept. And the government accepted that, and we all know that has been implemented. Couple of initiatives, couple of projects we did on infra, railways, roads. Over a period of time, we diversified, so our broader mandate is to provide consulting input, technical consulting inputs in the form of specific technical ideas to the government. And then it's for the government to whether, to take a broader decision based on their own constraints and based on their own priorities.
And you feel that being in the government has given you a better platform to do that as opposed
absolutely, to absolutely. Because I think two things have happened. One, when you are out from the outside, you do not tend to fully appreciate the constraints and the kind of aspects that you need to weigh on. While it is very easy to criticize from outside that सरकार ये नहीं कर रही, वो नहीं कर रही, ये तो होना ही चाहिए. But when you come inside the government, you are in a position to appreciate those constraints better. Yeah. And therefore, if you bring that private sector experience along with an idea of how the government works, that is a very powerful, I would say, position to be in. And being in government, we think for the government and we do not think for the private. I mean, of course, we think for the entire country as such, but we keep the constraints under which the government works in mind. So that gives us a slightly in a beneficial position. And government does listen to our advice, not all. Of course, I would be lying if I say 100% advice are being implemented, but a significant portion of our advice is actually being considered and implemented.
Yeah.
So that's a very, I would say, it's a very positive thing that, you feel at the end of the day. It's a very rewarding kind of a thing.
Oh, thanks for sharing. Your chapter I read, which talked about lateral entry in that book, could you explain how that has been mainstream now in the government, and maybe for the uninitiated? I'm referring to a chapter in a book which was edited by Mr. Kant, and Urvashi was one of the key writers there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would endorse a lot of the points that Kishore has said. I think for me personally, I had worked a lot, in the health sector prior to coming to the government. And as Kishore said, the government is a huge stakeholder. in a lot of the sectors, and health is one of those. In fact, we see a lot of market failures in a sector like health, where the private sector doesn't have incentives to provide a lot of crucial life-saving services that the government does. So I think absolutely, despite whatever flaws that we might see in the government sitting on the outside, you have to be in the system to bring about any kind of large-scale change. And I think definitely my experience as a lateral entrant, it's been very positive. I think the amount of sort of exposure to a range of policy issues, to a range of challenges, on the ground has been unparalleled. And I think what has been very encouraging in the last few years, which as you're saying, it's sort of got mainstream now. We've seen a lot of people like this come into the system. There are people younger than us as well, and then there are more experienced people like us who are also entering the government system. And I really hope this is a trend that continues and grows in the future, because the world is becoming highly specialized. While we do need our, general administrators and the bureaucracy is an absolute cornerstone of the government, but we also need specialists.
Right.
And I think the fact that that is now being recognized is a huge positive.
And it's something that anyway happens in many other countries.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and I think that's something we highlighted in the chapter as well, in the book that you just mentioned, that a lot of other countries have experimented with lateral hires in different ways, and I think they've also realized that at least there's one big positive that you get out of it, which is the level of specialization that a sectoral person can bring.
Right.
So I think for those reasons, I really hope we continue this path.